Before I was doing this work, I actually spent a couple of decades plus in state government. So I wasn't working in a I wasn't working in, the cozy environment that I am now with regard to sharing my story, sharing my experiences. So what I'm going to go back to something Tracy said. When you apply for a job, you apply for a job based on a certain set of skills that you have. And so whether you are a person with lived experience or not, there's a certain set of skills that got you that job. And so play to your strengths, always. And so in the context of playing to your strength, if your story feeds to that strength, that's how you play that. That's how you roll with it, because you've overcome some things, you've been through some hard stuff, but playing to your strength. So if you can conceptualize the fact that your lived experience is one of your strengths, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? And it's interesting to me, and maybe some folks that have more addiction related experience, that's not my experience, but it seems to me that when people not in the cozy environment, but in the corporate world and other fields, if you say that you're a recovering alcoholic, people they just roll right over it, and it's like, okay, whatever. Like, yay, okay, yay you. And so, and people, try to be a little sensitive about it if you have parties and whatnot, but they don't give it a second thought. It's something else happening if you tell somebody that you're overcoming depression, and so, or some other type of mental illness. I don't know. So it's like a double stigma. I don't appreciate that so much. But again, playing to your strengths and understanding that where you are now is a strength. It's power in that.
Where I was talking about earlier is I took myself out of a role of being a peer supporter and being in a corporate, because now I work for Youngstown State University. Now, I was very open with the dean, and I said, I teach unconventionally. And he said, what do you mean? I go, well, I'm pretty much crazy, and I'll do weird things with the students, and I have them to send the message home, and I will share my story, because I'm teaching social workers. But in a corporate environment, if you need the accommodations, you want to be direct up front with human resources. And don't feel like it's a bad thing, because it's there to help the employer. Because if you're not giving that information of what those needs are, you're going to be stressed out. You're not going to be performing as well as they hoped when they hired you. So it benefits them to accommodate so that you can be the best employee that you can be. And it also gives you an out to, be able to be accepted in that workplace. And if you're looking at, like, some of us are really like, we're go-getters. We're like up in your face with stigma. We're like pit bulls when protecting our young. But there are people that aren't at that place. And so, but there's other ways you can educate. If there's something in the paper and somebody says, oh gosh, somebody, a lunatic and went postal again. Well, I tend to joke again and that sort of thing. I say, well, I don't know if you knew this, but 5% of the people that commit these heinous crimes are mentally ill. That means 95% of the normals are committing the other, crimes. And that, so I'm glad I'm in the lucky 5, So
that's right. That is right.
But there's ways to educate. The other thing too, I didn't want our center to be like a stigma where we're all in the center. Like I felt we were institutionalized, that only mentally ill could come in. We became a center of wellness, and that's what we focused on: physical health, mental health, nutrition. Isn't that we're dying young, right? Because we're overweight. We have bad nutrition. We smoke a lot, especially people that have a mental illness, and smoking cessation programs. There's a lot of different things that even my benefits that I offer for my staff and that sort of thing, I made sure that they included a psychological piece and encouraged people to use it and educated them in the fact that this is a safe thing to use, this is confidential. So there's other ways. If you promote, instead of combating mental illness, focus on overall wellness for everyone.
Thank you guys. Great answer.
I do want to encourage you to be familiar with the Disabilities Act. Know your legal rights as a person with a mental illness or an addiction or whatever. really important, and because a lot of employers don't really know.
There's also something about telling your story in that you can tell it smart. And I don't mean that there is a bad way to tell your story. I just mean, I use the example of when I went on my first date with my now wife. I didn't run in, sit down, and say, "Hey, I have bipolar," because this would be frightening. But obviously, I could not move forward with the relationship if I did not share. So being true to yourself doesn't mean that you have to get all of the information out the first second that you meet somebody. It took Juliet 6 months to figure out that I was chronically late. I did not share that in the interview. But, so it's something to consider. That's not true, I'm only joking. Thank you for telling them that, I appreciate that. But that it is something to consider. When sharing your story or personal details about your life, one, there is no obligation. So there is sort of a creation of stigma when you feel obligated to do something because you have to. We're here to empower you to do what feels right to you and share when you feel empowered to do so. And then there's, as my friend Lisa always says, there's a smart way to do it. And maybe that's in HR, maybe that's after you get the job, maybe that's after tenure takes over, or however it fits into the vast world of which we live.